Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Matt here from Chill TCG. Today we're going to be looking at the top 16 deck lists from our tournament this past Wednesday, the Chill Series number 12, our biggest Chill Series event so far. 185 competitors. It was a great turnout, great tournament, and today we're just going to be looking at the deck lists of all the people that made top cut, which was top 16. So very excited, very interested to go at it. A lot of cool decks that made it this week. And a lot of repeats as well, as always. So let's get right into it. We're going to start off with Victor Garcia. He was the number 16 seed here from Mexico. Went 6-3 in the tournament, and he was playing ADPization. This is going to be our first ADP that we're going to be looking at today in the tournament. So let's go take a look. We're not going to go ahead and look at like their runs and all their matches that we did. We're going to try to do this a little bit quicker. Perhaps not make this an hour-long video. Okay, so we got ADPization. This one indeed has A/V, so very cool. Although Decidueye and Decidueye Goons wasn't, that wasn't really an archetype that saw a lot of success in this tournament. It's good to see that people are teching for it. Other than that, it's going to be a very standard ADP list. Except this one is not running hammers, so it focuses more so on the consistency of getting that GX attack off as early as possible. 3 Zacian, 2 ADP. Dedenne, and we actually see Oranguru as well as Eldegoss, so that 2 of, to really make sure that you get those bosses orders, especially whenever you need them. We got 1 Crobat as well, and then the A/V and the Mawile GX. Interesting that people are still playing Mawile, although I think it's still like a really good inclusion in this deck. Being able to put Pokemon on your opponent's bench, like Crobat, like Dedenne, or really any 2-prize Pokemon, making sure that they put that on their bench so that you can gust into it to take those 3 prizes is just going to be a really good combo. So I think that it makes sense to still have Mawile GX in this deck. And of course we have 4 bosses and 4 research, only 2 Marnies, so a lot of decks are running a bit more Marnie, I think, but this deck is really just sort of focused around, Dedenne, Crobat, research. That seems to be the best combo. Marnie's still really good, so it makes sense to put it in here. 4 Cherish Balls, again, really consistently, being able to find your Dedennes and your ADPs, very important in this deck. So 4 Cherish Balls along with the 4 Quick Balls, I think, really makes this deck that much more consistent. 4 Metal Saucers, I think that's a given for really any Zacian deck. Metal Saucer is a fantastic card to go with Zacian. We have the 4 Energy Switch and 4 Normal Switch. All these decks and Zacian decks in general are going to run 4 Switch cards, but 4 Energy Switch, again, really hammering home sort of the importance of getting that GX attack off as early as possible. And we actually see 3 Energy Spinners as well as 3 Water Energies. So again, this deck really focuses on that ADP GX attack and getting it off as early as possible. We see 1 Great Catcher, 2 Air Balloon, and 1 Chaotic Swell. No Big Charm. Big Charm is one of those things that it's kind of like a niche card in general. I think that bringing ADP up to 310 HP is really good in a lot of matchups. Like if you're playing Welder Mewtwo, you don't want him to just one-shot your ADP for 300. If you're playing E-Turn, you don't want him to hit you with the Zigzagoon and get the one-hit KO on ADP. So to me, Big Charm is a good inclusion in this deck, but Air Balloon definitely seems to be more important in the long run and in more scenarios. So he's not playing Big Charm, but if it were me, I would probably play Big Charm and ADP just because those other decks scare me, and the ability to hit, big damage really scares me for this deck. 1 Chaotic Swell, you could run more than 1, but, 1 makes sense. And then 8-3 energy lineup. I think most people are running, around 8 energies, metal energies. 3 water seems like a little bit, maybe like 1 more. I don't know if people are actually normally running 3. I honestly don't remember. But other than that, pretty standard ADP list. No hammers or anything, just really focused around consistently getting that ADP GX attack off. So big shout out to Victor Garcia for getting 16 in the tournament. Next up is Xerneas, 12-3 or 1-2-3-5-2. He's from Canada, also went 6-3. He's actually playing Spiritomb, so we saw 2 Spiritomb decks in this tournament, and I believe these are actually the Spiritomb and Donphan lists. Very interesting that people were running these in this tournament. But they actually ended up doing pretty well. So let's take a look at this list, something that some people might not be familiar with. So it might be pretty interesting to look at. Of course, 4 Spiritombs and 3 Donphan. Of course, the Pokemon that this deck is going to be revolving around. Spiritomb, of course, its ability, you get to put one damage counter on Spiritomb every turn, and its attack does 10 plus, I think, 30 more for each damage counter on Spiritomb. So obviously really good. Like if he's got 5 damage counters onto him, you're hitting for 160 for 1 energy. A very good single prize attacker. Although, with things like Zigzagoon now, it can be really tough to really play Spiritomb these days, and as well as, not having whatever that stadium was, I believe, that put damage counters on the GX Pokemon. But either way, And this is sort of the new version of Spiritomb. Goes really well with Donphan. Donphan does 120 for one fighting energy, but it puts 2 damage counters on all of your Pokemon. So again, these 2 cards really do go well together. And having a dark type Pokemon and a fighting type Pokemon in the same deck actually does a really good. It has a really good spread against a lot of decks, hitting for super effective. So these 2 cards go well together. Let's take a look at the other cards, though. 3 Jirachis as sort of the draw engine. Of course, a really good start Pokemon. Really a card that's just going to be really good in this deck in general. And then 2 Jinx. For people that don't know this, Jinx, you just get to move 1 damage counter every turn from one of your Pokemon to the other. So this means that you can pile all of your damage counters onto Spiritomb every turn. Donphan, of course, is doing 20 damage to all of your bench Pokemon. So Jinx helps you move those damage counters onto Spiritomb to give it more to give it less HP, but have it do more damage. We see 1 Crobat, 1 Dedenne. I don't know if I would really run 2 prize Pokemon in this single prize archetype. That kind of defeats the purpose, especially like if you're playing ADP and you have to like play Crobat and Dedenne, then that's just game for them right there. But of course, very useful cards. And probably it does overall probably make sense to run these cards. And then we see 1 Heracross here. I'm not familiar with this Heracross, so I'm just going to go ahead and look at it. This is from Unified Minds. So 1 colorless energy, turn the tables. If one of your opponent's Pokemon used a GX attack during their last turn, your opponent shuffles their active Pokemon and all cards attached to it into their deck. That's actually really cool. Can be really cool against ADP, actually, a really cool counter, which I assume that's what that's for. Or really any GX attack, Pokemon like Mewtwo and Mew, probably, this could be good against. I like this card a lot. I think that's a really cool inclusion. It's colorless energy, so, you could really play any, you could really play that, like, card in any deck. I think that's super cool, actually. Now that I think about it, I like that a lot. Looking at the trainer cards, we have 4 Research, 4 Money, 2 Boss. So, again, the big 3. I guess this deck could run things like Rosa and whatnot, but, he decided to just run the 3, the 3 most played supporter cards, probably the best 3 supporter cards in the game. We see 4 Switch cards and 4 Scoop Up Nets. Of course, with Jirachi, and then sort of the idea of, really needing to switch in and out a lot of times with this deck, it makes sense. Scoop Up Nets, of course, can be really good in a deck that's focused around single prize archetypes. We see 4 Quick Ball, 3 Great Ball, and 2 Pokemon Communications. Plenty of different Pokemon in this deck that you're going to want to be grabbing. A lot of these single prize Pokemon won't last that long, so you're going to want to consistently be able to go into those single prize Pokemon and find them whenever you want. So it makes sense to be running a total of 9 Pokemon search cards for sure. I like it. 2 Great Catchers to go along with the boss's orders. So I guess this deck really does have a focus around knocking out multiple prize Pokemon. So Great Catcher makes a lot of sense. He's running 10 supporters, so I think I think Great Catcher is probably a good idea in this deck in general. 1 Tool Scrapper, of course, I think is also pretty cool in this deck. Ordinary Rod to get those basic energies back, because we're not running a whole lot of energies in this deck, as well as those single prize Pokemon back, especially if some of them are prized. Now, a big card here, an important card in this deck is Toughness Cape, which works really well with Spiritomb. It's a new card. Toughness Cape is from Darkness Ablaze, but goes really well with Spiritomb. Gives Spiritomb 50 extra HP, because it is a basic Pokemon, and that brings Spiritomb up to 110 HP, which means that you can put 10 damage counters onto Spiritomb, and it is now doing 310 damage, I believe, which is absolutely crazy. Might be a little bit hard to get all those damage counters on Spiritomb, but like late game, if you can really manage to do that, then you're potentially getting some massive KOs with Spiritomb. So very, very cool. Important card in this deck for sure. Also, being able to put 10 damage counters on instead of 5 works really well against or with things like Donphan, who does 20 damage, every time it attacks. Obviously 20 doesn't go into 50, but it goes into 10, so the math works out there. We see 4 Aurora Energies, of course, works with all the Pokemon in this deck, and then just 2 of each Dark and each Fighting, because we can't run 8 Aurora Energy, so definitely a really cool list. If you guys are interested in playing a really cool, unique single prize archetype, this one definitely did well in this tournament, and overall it seems like a pretty good list. So very cool. I like it a lot. Definitely go check it out. Okay, that's Xerneas at number 15. Number 14, we have Andre Tucson. I don't know. Andre de Tucson. I don't know. He's from the U.S. though. 6-3. He was playing Colossal. He was our highest placing Colossal in the tournament. Let's take a look here. So yeah, pretty standard Colossal, I think. As far as these lists have gone, so, in recent times since the card came out. He's got the 4-3 lineup, Colossal, Colossal VMAX. 2 Orange Guru goes really well with Colossal. Of course, get those energies on the top of your deck. Dedenne, Crobat, Surfetched, I think, of course, goes really well with Colossal as well. Just being able to switch into to Surfetched and pop off for 200. Can be really good to finish some KOs. Jirachi, Amazinger, also is a good card that goes with Colossal. Probably not as good as Orange Guru because I think it needs to be in the active spot. But we also run 1 Mimikyu and 1 Fion as well as sort of like some small support Pokemon. Mimikyu, of course, it's good. You put that on your bench, you slap into like a, any sort of like a Mewtwo, or something like that, and it can't really do anything after that, which I would think is a pretty good strategy with all the Mewtwo decks people are playing these days. And then Fion, of course, makes it so you can't deck out, and also, is a good option to force your opponent to switch out. For sure. We got 4 Research, 3 Marnie, 2 Boss, of course, the big 3. 4 Hammers. So people are playing Hammers in Colossal. It can be kind of a slower deck. Decks that typically don't have great, energy acceleration engines like to play Crushing Hammers. So that kind of keeps them, at the same pace as some of these faster decks who do have good energy acceleration. So Crushing Hammers totally makes sense. Of course, it's good against ADP, E-Turn. And it's really good against Orbeetle if you end up playing Orbeetle. I don't know. Okay, and 4 Switch cards on top of, the 4 Quick Balls, 3 Pokécom, so plenty of Pokemon Search as well. Buff Padding, of course, a card that everyone plays with Colossal, gives Colossal 50 extra HP, which is just absolutely, I think it's 50, it might be 40, but absolutely insane. I mean, like, Colossal's a very tanky Pokemon, along with the Stone Energies that reduce damage done to it. Buff Padding can really make Colossal really hard to knock out, and that's, again, really a big advantage that Colossal has over other decks. 2 Air Balloons. I'm not sure. Air Balloon's probably good for, like Surfetched. I mean, I don't know. It drops Colossal down to 2, but you'd probably be putting Buff Padding on Colossal, so it's probably just a good pivot option for really any of these other cards that might be stuck in your active spot, like Orange Guru, Surfetched, Dedenne, Crobat, all those other type things. Air Balloon's going to be really good for that. 2 Martial Arts Dojo, along with a Wondrous Labyrinth. Now, Wondrous Labyrinth can be really good for those games where you're really just going to be spamming that first attack on Colossal VMAX because, it's easy to get 2 energies on Colossal. It accelerates itself after that first attack. And other decks, things like ADP and whatnot, Wondrous Labyrinth could be really good against. So I like running Wondrous Labyrinth in Colossal. It's kind of that same effect of Send a Scorch VMAX. It doesn't really disrupt you at all, but it could disrupt your opponent a lot. Martial Arts Dojo, of course, for that damage boost on comeback scenarios. And then for the energies, we just have 8 fighting, 4 Stone Energies, and then 1 Capture Energy. There is a colorless attack or colorless energy in Colossal's attack cost, as well as Surfetch. So I think Capture Energy is a good inclusion in this deck for sure. And the Stone Energies, of course, good with Colossal, definitely. So this is Colossal. I think it's the only one in the tournament. Andre got 14th in the tournament with Colossal. Yeah, it was the only one. So pretty cool. I'm going to take a drink of water. All right. Moving on. At number 13, we have Thomas Brophy. Another regular in the Chill Series tournaments. Our first guy here to get 19 points. He was 6-2-1 in the tournament, playing Centiskorch as well. Our highest placing Centiskorch. Let's take a look at his the famous T Brophy Centiskorch list. Cool. So this is Ability Centiskorch. You'll notice that there's a lot of different cards in here, which really sort of expands the matchup capabilities that Centiskorch VMAX has, making it a much more diverse deck, a much more intangible deck that most people kind of think of it as. We see 2 Centiskorch V and VMAX, 3 Jirachis, 2 Volcanions. Those are going to be our starting Pokemon that we would like to start the game with. 2 Dedennes and 1 Crobat, of course, to help with drawing, which is also kind of what Jirachi is for. And then we have 1 Zigzagoon. So Zigzagoon, I'm sure the math works out on a lot of different matchups. And Thomas definitely knows sort of why Zigzagoon's in here. I'm not going to go ahead and sit here forever to try to figure out what specific matchups are that Zigzagoon is here for, but Zigzagoon, of course, everyone knows what it does. 1 Heatran GX, I think that's it's a fantastic card to be in Centiskorch. Scorch is one of these decks that you pile energy onto Centiskorch, so Heatran really benefits from that. And Eldegoss V to get those Welders back late in the game if you need them, and then Giratina to discard special energies from your opponent's Pokemon. Of course, special energies are becoming more and more common in a lot of decks, so Giratina definitely really, really good. And then one Fion, I guess. Fion is seeing a lot of play these days, and I like Fion a lot. Not only does, of course, it prevent you from decking out in any situation, but it also, it's just really good to force your opponent out of the active spot. 4 Welders, 2 Boss, and then 1 Bird Keeper. T-Bro, he loves to put Bird Keeper in here. He thinks it's a really good inclusion. I love Bird Keeper personally. I think like it makes sense to just run one in a lot of decks. Switching your Pokemon, drawing 3 is just a really good ability, and can be really clutch sometimes. Boss's Orders, of course. Why wouldn't you put that in the deck? And then 4 switch cards, 4 scoop up nets. So plenty of different switching options in the Senna Scorch list. With things like Zigzagoon, Volcanion, Jirachi, scoop up net makes a lot of sense. And so does 4 switch cards. So, scoop up net's going to be really clutch for sure in this list. He runs 4. And then for Pokemon Search, we see 4 Quick Ball and 3 Pokemon Communications. Quick Ball, of course, going to be in every deck too, but, this deck has a lot of different Pokemon that you might be needing at any point. So, 3 Pokecoms makes a lot of sense. 2 Fire Crystals. I like running 2 Fire Crystals. Some people will run like 1 Fire Crystal, and I think that's a little bit sketchy. 2 Fire Crystals really for consistency purposes, getting those energies back. Of course, we really only run 12 Fire Energies, and that seems like a fine amount, but in a deck like this, it's really not too much. So Fire Crystal is going to be really good for that late game sort of consistency in that push. 1 Great Catcher, of course, seeing a lot more play these days than it used to. Still really good to boss up those, to gust up those Dedennes and whatever sort of GX Pokemon might be on your opponent's bench. And trust me, there will often be a GX Pokemon. 1 Reset Stamp, of course, a card that I think should be in every deck. And then 3 Giant Hearths, an Incredible Stadium for this deck in particular. I know some people might run like Marshadow in a deck like this, but 3 Giant Hearths, it just sort of seems like it's not very needed. This deck does again struggle with things like Chaotic Swell, just a really great disruptive stadium card, and it's really up to you whether you think that Marshadow is worth being run in a list like this. Yeah, so he's running 3 Giant Hearts and then 12 Fire Energy. So I get a very well-rounded Senna Scorch list, and a list that Thomas has done really well with, probably over the past about month or so. So shout out to Thomas, man. I mean, he's obviously a great player, great guy. And he got number 13th in the tournament. Next up is our highest placing Blacephalon in the tournament, and that is Andrew Hendrick. 19 points again, 6-2. Let's take a look at the list. Okay. All right. So probably, again, a super consistent, super standard Blounds list. If you guys don't know what Blounds does, then, you're living under a rock. If you see a Blacephalon list, it's going to look something like this. There's really not too much variance that you can run. He's got the 4 Blounds, 4 Dedenne, 1 Cramorant, Crobat, Dedenne, Zacian, Mewtwo, and Oricorio. Some people might run Reshiram and Charizard in this deck list. I don't know if it's entirely needed to put a 3-prize Pokemon in here, but it is what it is, I suppose. And so I mean, a very standard Pokemon list here for Blacephalon. You have Blounds, which you're going to be attacking with, Cramorant to steal some KOs. Everything else is going to be a support Pokemon, going to help you draw cards and going to help you sort of get what you need. We see 4 Welders, 1 Boss. I like to see this deck run more than 1 Boss. It just sort of, I don't know, like I've beaten this deck a few times mainly because they only run 1 Boss, and it's sometimes hard for them to find it. But he runs 4 Welders, 1 Boss, 4 Quick Balls to find all of your Pokemon, which are basics, 4 Fire Crystals, because again, this deck really likes to discard energy, Fire Energy, and then just pile them back in their hand with Fire Crystal. Of course, you play a couple Fire Crystals in one turn, and you can get 6 energies from your discard pile back into your hand, which is very good for Blacephalon. 4 Scoop Up Nets, 4 Switch, of course, this deck does run the 4 Jirachi, so again, that makes total sense. Also works really well with things like Mewtwo, and even Blacephalon if you need to get it out of the active spot. We see 2 Great Balls on top of the Quick Balls. Again, probably makes some sense. You're almost always going to have a Pokemon on the top 7 cards of your deck, so why not run a couple Great Balls? 4 Giant Hearth, again, you really want to get Fire Energies in your hand every turn, if possible, so 4 Giant Hearth makes a lot of sense. Not a lot of variance in this deck, but it gives a lot of consistency in it, and it's a very powerful deck. I think Blounds is probably the best single prize archetype that we have right now, and if you're interested in running a bit more of a budget type deck, then definitely run Blacephalon. Shout out to Andrew Hendrick. Great guy, great player. Next up is Gabriel Smart. Again, another great player, a very regular player here in the Chill series. Always does well. It's always great to see him play. He was actually playing Luke Metal this week. Maybe not something he always plays, but did really well in the tournament. 11 out of 185 people from the U.S. went 6-2-1. Let's take a look at his Luke Metal list. Luke Metal has seen quite a bit of a rise, actually, in the last few weeks. So he's got the 4 Zacian, 2 Zamazenta, 1 Luke Metal, and he's actually running a Tapu Fini, which, is debated whether it's worth it, but, Tapu Fini can be really good, especially in a lot of those fire matchups that Luke Metal might struggle with. So that's the Pokemon count. Not a lot of Pokemon in this deck, but again, really just everything that you need, to be honest with you, and they're all basic, so, why not? 4 Boss, 4 Research, 4 Marty, 2 Malolana with 1 Cynthia and Caitlyn, so a wide list of supporters here, but each one of those is going to be really important. Malolana, of course, is super good in a deck like this, and Boss's Orders, it's debated whether you might need 4 in this deck, but Boss's Orders definitely should be in this deck. And Research, Marnie, all stuff that makes total sense. 1 Cynthia and Caitlyn, interesting that he's running Cynthia and Caitlyn. It can be really, really good for the long haul, of course, because this deck can just go the distance a lot of times. But you're running 4 Boss's Orders, so I don't know if it's necessarily something that any of these supporters you might need to take out of your discard pile. You might be just using Cynthia and Caitlyn to get the Malolana out of your discard pile, but who knows? Gabriel knows, and he knows what he's doing, so I'm not going to question it. 4 Metal Saucers, of course, Zacian deck. 4 Quick Balls, makes total sense. All your Pokemon are basics. 4 Switch cards, I think that makes a lot of sense as well. It's a Zacian deck, you're going to want a lot of switching. And 2 Poké-Dolls, which again actually goes really well with Zacian. It really works as a consistent double switch out, as well as a stalling mechanic. It's just a really good card in Luke Metal. To me, it's a very important inclusion. And I don't know if you really need to run more than 2. Maybe you run 3. I don't know, but it's an incredible card in this deck for sure. 2 Pokegears, that makes sense. You're running a lot of different supporters in this deck. So it totally makes sense. Tool Scrapper, of course, something that also makes a lot of sense in this deck. And then 1 Tag Call, because, why not, right? You're running Malolana, you're running Cynthia and Caitlyn, and a Luke Metal, so, why not run a Tag Call? You can get 2 cards at once. Also a smart move. And then, of course, Metal Goggles. We don't have Metal Frying Pan anymore, so, you're going to run Metal Goggles. It's sort of the best defensive item for, or tool card for Metal Pokemon. Goes really well. Also, it's very clutch against things like, I guess, Dragapult if you play Dragapult, or Orbeetle if you play Orbeetle. So, I guess, it can prevent you from, it can prevent you from Zigzagoons maybe too as well. It's just a really good card in general, and it makes it so that you are a lot more tanky. 1 Chaotic Swell also makes sense. And then he's got the 10 Metal Energies with 4 Coding Energies, so 14 energies in total. Consistently wants to be able to get those energies in his hand. Coding Energies, that new one from Vivid Voltage, takes away your weakness. Excuse me, which is very, very important. Very important in a deck like this, who really, can... It honestly has a really, really good matchup against most decks, other than being weak to fire, I suppose, right? But with the Tapu Fini, with the Coding Energies, it just, it really makes sure that matchup is, you're not at that much of a disadvantage, I suppose. I mean, you probably would be in general anyway, but Coding Energy is definitely going to fix that for the most part. So, big shout out to Gabe. That's a very cool list. Luke Metal, I mean, it's something that you guys have probably, seen before, but always good to cover it. Next up is Poor Nico. Poor Nico. He is from, what is this? Will this load? Is this Italy? Sorry, I don't know my flags. Number 10 in the tournament, 621, playing Eternatus VMAX. This is our first Eternatus that we're looking at today. And this is going to be sort of like a, okay, so this is the Rotom phone, the ePhones one, the list that Azul was actually running in this tournament as well, I believe. Kind of like a Disruption style. I mean, it's not really Disruption, but it's, I don't know, it's a new little E-turn variant that saw some play at the tournament. Of course, 4 lineup of, E-turns and Crobats. You're going to see that a lot. 3 Zigzagoons, 3 Yveltals as well as 1 Absol and 1 Hoopa. Absol's really cool in this deck. Honestly, I think it should see more play. And E-turn reduces the retreat cost of your opponent's basic Pokemon by 1. So, works really well against things like ADP or even Luke Metal, and a lot of other decks as well. So I like Absol in this deck for sure. We have the 4 Boss, 4 Research, 4 Marnie. Totally makes complete sense. For Pokemon Search, we've got the 4 Quick Balls, 4 Great Balls, and then 2 Pokecoms. Again, a lot of Pokemon in this deck. You want to always be getting Pokemon on your bench every turn, so you want to run a lot of Pokemon Search for sure. And then, of course, Force Switch makes a lot of sense in general in this deck and in most decks. You just want to switch out. It's a card that's in every deck. Rotom Phone. So let me just make sure I'm getting it right. So look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose one of them, and shuffle the other cards back into your deck. Put the card you chose on the top of your deck. So it's actually very interesting, this card in general. Doesn't really necessarily do anything like that crazy for a deck like this, but at the same time, like you can, I don't know, like if you're with Crobat, a lot of times you're not drawing all 5 like cards. You might be drawing like 2, 3, 4 cards. So Rotom Phone guarantees that you can get at least one of those cards that you need. At the same time, it also works with things like Great Ball, right? To make sure that you're getting a Pokemon with Great Ball. I guess maybe I don't even think it does. I don't even know. I mean, it's just consistently good, right? Like say like next turn you need Boss, so like you just like use Phone a couple times maybe, and you just put that Boss on the top of your deck, and you just wait till next turn. It's just pretty good for consistency purposes. So I like it. 9 energies, 9 dark energies. Most people I think probably run like 10. That's around the standard, so maybe like 1 less than normal, but very cool list. Is it better than like Poison E-Turn? I don't know. Is it better than like Hammer's Disruption E-Turn? I don't know. But kind of like a new style, like a new thing that people were trying at the tournament, and interesting for sure, nonetheless. So shout out to Nico for getting 10th at the tournament with E-Turn, our highest placing E-Turn in the tournament. We had one at 17, but this was the only one in top 16. Next up is All Out Blitzel. Shout out to All Out Blitzel, 61, our highest ranking person with 19 points. Didn't make top 8 cut, but got 9th in the tournament. He was also running the Spiritomb Donphan. I'm not going to cover it too much, but let's go see if it's any different. Okay, so it's the exact same list. I'm not going to talk too much about it, of course, like I said. It's literally just that Donphan list. It's super cool. Particularly, I don't know why people like decided to run Donphan in this tournament or Spiritomb. We had like 4 or like 6 people run it, which is actually not a bad amount, especially for a deck like this. So I guess maybe somebody made a video on it, or like it was on like someone's stream. It just kind of became like a little meme this past week, but it actually did really well. So I would like to see this deck played more, to be honest with you. I think it's probably really fun to play. It's a really interesting list. But I'm not going to say too much about it. Sorry, Blitzel, big shout out to you. It's just, it's the same list as one we already covered, so I'm not going to like go through it. But anyway, big shout out to All That Blitzel for almost making top 8 with Spiritomb. Very, very cool. Next up is Gyroman ADP. We're going to see a lot more ADPs and a lot more Luke medals, so I'm just going to kind of check them out, see if they're any different. Not cover them too much. Okay, so this deck is... There's something missing here that wasn't in the last ADP list. I just can't remember what it was. So is Zacian ADP, Dedenne, Oranguru, Crobat, Elagos, Aegislash, Mawile. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's literally the same Pokemon lineup. This one is running Hammers, though. So if you're interested in running ADP Hammers, then this is probably the deck for you. It also has a Big Charm, which, again, is something that I recommend in this deck. He's running less Cherish Balls, but he's running like a Tool Scrapper, 1 less Energy Spinner. So to me, like, Tool Scrapper is also really good in a deck like this. It can be really clutch against things like Luke Metal. It can be really good in just a lot of different scenarios. I like Tool Scrapper in ADP, like, for sure. I really like it. He's running 8-2 and 8-2 energy lineup instead of like an 8-3, and only 3 energy switch. So a lot of things are a little bit different with this ADP list. There's quite a few more cards than there was in that last ADP list, which might make the deck a little bit less consistent overall. But it's really up to you. This one did better than the last one in terms of placement. This one did make top 8. But I think as far as ADP Hammers goes, this one's pretty much the standard. I think that the Tool Scrapper and the Big Charm are really important inclusions in this deck, and Hammers, of course, is going to be really good. And in so many matchups, it's almost become like a staple card in this format. So that's ADP Hammers. We're at like 30 minutes, so I'm going to try to go a little bit quicker. Okay, so that was Jobberman, number 8. In the tournament, made top 8, 721. Shout out to him. Next up, let's check out Vaughn's Luke Metal list, see if it's any different than. Okay, so yeah, a little bit different here. He's running the Galarian Stunfisk. sort of in preparation for if he was playing like Decidueye Goons. Absolutely shuts down Decidueye, so super clutch. Other than that, supporters look very, very similar. Everything else looks super similar, except he's running like one more basic metal and one less coating metal. Of course, the basics work with Metal Saucer, where the coating energies don't. Also works with Zacian's ability and stuff, so it's really up to you which one, like what ratio you'd rather run. But other than that, yeah, it's pretty much the same exact list, except he's running. I think he's running like one last research maybe with Stunfisk in here. So cool, that's super cool. I think Stunfisk is really good. And if I was playing Luke Metal, I would definitely run Luke Stunfisk, and you just play one card in your deck and you absolutely completely nullify Decidueye. So to me, it's smart. Big shout out to Vaughn, number 7. I'm not going to go over his list too much. We've already looked at Luke Metal. But made top 8 cut. Next up is Dark Ryan. 721 got 6 in the tournament. ADP. So this is going to be our third ADP of the list. So let's take a look at his. See what's a little bit different. Okay, so this looks like it's very similar, except he's not running Oranguru. He's not running Oranguru. He's running one extra Dedenne. Everything else is pretty standard. I think he's running 2 Great Catchers instead of 1, and he's running 1 less energy switch. But other than that, everything is pretty normal. He is running Tool Scrapper and 1 less water energy than that first one that we saw. But, again, all these ADP lists are going to be very similar. This makes a lot of sense to me as I look at it. I don't know if you really need, Oranguru and Eldegoss in the same deck for ADP. But at the same time, like, all of your Pokemon are 2 prize Pokemon or more, which makes this deck a little bit sketchy to play. But overall, it is what it is. ADP is ADP. I like this list a lot. It's kind of like a mix between that first one and the third one that we looked at. So very cool. Very cool ADP. If you like ADP, then try it out. In this video, you're going to see like 4 or 5 different ADP lists. All of them will be a little bit different. So like, if you're interested in building ADP or like, playing it or trying to perfect that list, then, go check out all of these different ADP lists and just sort of try to meld them into one list that seems to be the most consistent for you. Next up is Danny House. Danny House he's from Norway, 721. He's our highest placing Luke Metal in the tournament at number 5. So let's see if his Luke Metal list is any different. Okay. Well, okay. So it's pretty much the same as the last one that we saw, except he's running Fion in here, other than like Finny. Does have the Stunfisk. And he also has a Stealthy Hood in here, which is funny. Although I like Stealthy Hood. I think that's a good a good card to throw in this deck for sure. He's got the Tool Scrapper, the same supporter lineups, Dolls, Tag Hall, Goggles. He's running 1 Stealthy Hood. I like that, to be honest with you. And then he's running the 3 basics with the 3 coating energies. I think that this is probably better. I don't know if you really need 4 coating energies in this deck, but again, it's something that you want to get consistently, so maybe running 4 is the better option. The Stunfisk, very important. I would put this in my list, especially considering how much Decidueye has done in the past week or two. So I think that's probably also kind of a reason for Stealthy Hood, as well as like kind of dodging like the poison or I guess or just other effects that might be done to your Pokemon. The Stealthy Hood's kind of a niche thing. I don't know if it's entirely necessary, but it's just 1 card in your deck and helps with like a couple specific matchups really well. So why not run it? So Danny House, very cool, highest placing Luke Metal in the tournament at number 5. Next up, we got 3 lists that we haven't looked at yet, so I guess we can kind of actually go in. Next is 97 Kirby. This is actually Kobe Kawasaki, I believe, and he's from the U.S. Made top 4. So 831, and he was actually playing Reshizard, which is hilarious. Not that I'm making fun of him. It's just funny to see Reshizard like in the top 4 of a tournament at this point, in the game. So it's probably going to be a bit of like a Weather Box deck in general, yeah. So Volcanions, Jirachis, of course, these are the cards that you want to start your game with. Jirachi's very good if you're going first. Volcanion, very good if you're going second, for sure. So you have really good start options for both scenarios. 2 Reshiram and Charizard are going to be sort of your main attacker. Does 230 consistently for 4 energy, does 300 for 6. Also, that first attack for 2 energy can be really clutch as well. Just a really good tag team attacker. 2 Dedenes as draw support. Crobat, which you can set up in 1 turn with Welder. Snipe your opponent's bench for 160. Going to be really good. And Double V. Double V is a super underrated Pokemon. One of my favorite Pokemon, and should be honestly in like most Welder decks. Again, a card that you can just set up in 1 turn with Welder. And it has 210 HP, but takes 30 less damage from attack. So you actually have to hit this thing for 240 to knock it out, which means like a Zacian isn't going to knock this thing out without ADP boost, so it's actually really good against things like Luke Metal, and also like if it does, well, let's see, it does 120, yeah, okay, so it does 120 plus 30 more for each prize card that your opponent's taken. This means that if your opponent has 5 prizes, and he only has 1 prize card remaining, that you're hitting for 270 for a single turn setup on double. It's just a busted Pokemon. I love it. Oranguru, why not? Just a good card in general. And then Crobat, of course, because you are running Dedenne, Zigzagoons, Mewtwo, and then Oricorio with Fion. So a lot of different Pokemon in this list, like a ton of different Pokemon. All of them have their own purpose. Oricorio, Dedenne, Crobat, draw support. You got your starting Pokemon here, Zigzagoon to ping, Mewtwo to get those supporters out of your discard pile. A lot of people are kind of choosing to run like the Oranguru Mewtwo combination other than Eldegoss because you can use it multiple times. And they're single prize Pokemon, but I don't know, it's kind of debatable whether that's a better sort of strategy than just running Eldegoss. But that's what he's running in this deck. We see 4 Welder and only 1 boss. So not a lot of supporters. Welder's definitely a card that you want to get consistently. We see, 4 Quick Balls, 3 Pokecoms, and 2 Cherish Balls. There's a lot of different Pokemon on this deck, so, probably good for consistency. 4 Scoop Ups, and then 4 Switch. Of course, Scoop Up's going to be really good with, like, the Mewtwo, Jirachi, Volcanion. And 4 Switches, again, it's just, I say it all the time, it's just what people run in decks. 2 Great Catchers. So he's deciding to run 2 Great Catchers instead of like multiple bosses orders. I kind of get it. At the same time, I don't know if that's sort of the better plan. 2 Fire Crystals, smart. I like to run at least 2 Fire Crystals in all my Welder decks, so for sure. Okay, and then we have 3 Giant Hearths with 13 energy. So a very cool list. It does say on Limitless like a Reshiram and Charizard deck, which is probably like the front runner for this deck. It's sort of like it's like the main card, I suppose you could say, but really it's just like a Welder box list, and you have a variety of different attackers for different scenarios. Volcanion, good for setup, but also a single prize attacker. Reshiram and Charizard for big damage. Cramorant to snipe the bench, double for comeback attack. So it's very good. Like, it's a very cool list. I don't know. It's as far as like fire decks go, it has a lot of different options. I like it a lot, and seems to be pretty consistent too. Top 4 placement for this deck, so definitely super cool. Big shout out to Kobe here, 97 Kirby. Next up, we got Vitor Lugan, who made 3rd in the tournament, 821 from Brazil. He was our Picaram representative. I made a couple videos on Picaram in the past, but this is sort of a new age version of Picaram. Everyone sort of notices Lightning Mewtwo, which did make it to the finals, but overall, I think the perception is that just Picaram with a couple Mewtwo's thrown in there is going to be the more consistent list. He's got 3 Boltons, which I like. I think you should run at least 2 Boltons, 3 for consistency purposes. You want to start this card most games, especially if you're going second, and it's also a card that you want to have late in the game for some sweeps. So 3 Bolton, 2 Dedenne, of course, draw support, electric Pokemon goes well in this deck. Also, it's an option. It's an attack that you can use on Mewtwo for only 2 energies, which is one thing to note. 2 Picaram, important in case you prize one. It's important to always have access to this attack, full blitz. 2 Mewtwo's, which is Zach Lesage in our podcast in other videos kind of said too. This is just an attachable big charm. Which gives you 30 more HP, but it also gives you 1 less retreat cost, gets rid of your fighting type weakness, and it gives you access to use not only Picaram's attacks, Raitu's attacks, and Dedenne's attacks at the same time. So it's just a really good inclusion in this deck for sure. We see the Crobat, another draw support card, Eldegoss, to get your boss's orders back late in the game, or really any, I guess, supporter that you'll need back into your hand late in the game. Raichu and a Alolan Raichu can oftentimes be more clutch than Picaram. It doesn't accelerate energy with its attack, but does 160 instead of 150. Also does paralysis, which is super cool. And its GX attack for 5 energy, I believe, does 250. which is actually like a really, really good attack too if you need to do it. So a super good card in this deck. Then of course Tapu Koko Prism Star is super good to just get those energies back from your discard pile. Could be, between Full Blitz, Boltund, and Tapu Koko, it's really easy to get a lot of energies on the board early with this deck. So very, very good. Crushing Hammers, just one of those things that's absolutely gutting with this deck. Picaram can get like 6 energies on the board turn 1 and then hit you with like a couple hammers next turn and just absolutely dominate. So definitely hammers. You got the big 3 supporter lineup. Just 4 quick balls, 1 cherish ball, 2 electromagnetic radar for your Pokemon search. Discarding energies in this deck is actually pretty good. I say it a lot, but Tapu Koko likes to take 2 energies from your discard pile and put them onto your bench. So you honestly it's preferable that you discard a few basic energies in this deck. So quick balls and radar is going to be really good. 4 switch, 2 energy switch. Energy switch is actually really clutch in this deck as well. Makes it so you can set up Boltund in 1 turn, or like set up just other Pokemon a lot easier with energy switch. 2 reset stamps seems a little, like you should run at least 1 stamp in every deck. He's deciding to run 2. I don't have anything against that at all. We went over the Raiders, Cherish Balls, 2 air balloons, which is interesting. I don't know if running Big Charm is entirely necessary in a deck like this, but Air Balloon makes sense because your primary attacker will be Mewtwo and Mew-GX, which has a retreat cost of 2. So not only can you play Mewtwo and Mew-GX effectively, giving like your Picaram and stuff more HP, but also giving it free retreat with Air Balloon. So I like that system for sure. Switching is obviously going to be really important. So with things like the Raichu's attack, right, you're going to want to be able to double switch and switch in a lot. So Air Balloon, I like it. Makes total sense. I think that's smart. All right. Sorry about that. My cat was just throwing up some stuff for whatever reason. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so we've got 2 electric energies and then 3 speed energies. This deck, it's kind of like a catch-22 because speed energy is super good. It helps you accelerate cards while attaching energy manually every turn. It's just a good card. At the same time, it doesn't work with things like Boltund, like Full Blitz, like Tapu Koko Prism Star. So, you want a good amount of basic energies as well. So I think the 10-3 lineup is probably pretty smart. Although, yeah, I think that's a pretty good plan. This is like new age Picaram. If you guys are interested in Picaram these days, play it. It's one of the best decks right now, if not the best deck in the game, or in the format at least. And this is sort of the best way to play it these days. So very cool. Shout out to Vitor Lugan for having a great run, 3rd in the tournament. Next up is Lightning Mewtwo, Angel Aranabar, and he is from Peru. So let's take a look at this list. This was a list that actually won Chill Series 10, which was Azul's list. Well, it wasn't his list, but it was a list that he ran. You're going to see that this is it's very similar to Picaram these days, except, you focus mainly on the Aurora energy engine, and you have access to all of these different sort of Pokemon that Mewtwo and Mew-GX can use. Things like Naganadel, things like, Vileplume, Gengar, Greninja, and you can even throw Surfetch'd in here because it works with Aurora energies. So very, very cool. Also, gets that that 1-hit KO on Eternatus. Also really good against other Picarams and stuff. So this is the list. Everything else is very similar. Honestly, it's a lot similar of a list, except you take out the 4 hammers, you put in some tech Pokemon, and everything's pretty much the same. Other than just sort of the wider variety of Pokemon. Naganadel, for 1 Psychic Energy and 3 colorless, you get to just snipe the bench for 170. Can be really good to end the game, and kind of like Crimmerat, just snipe some KOs. Surfetch'd, for 2 fighting and a colorless, does 200. It's really good for just that fighting type coverage. At the same time, it works with Aurora, so if you have an Aurora on 2 Mewtwo's or 2 Aurora on 1 Mewtwo, you can switch in Galarian Surfetch'd, and its ability works with Aurora, so you can move those Aurora energies to Surfetch'd to get, some 1-hit KOs on E-turn or something like that. It's just an honestly really good Pokemon in this deck particular. Eldegoss, yep. Vileplume GX, so for 2 energies you can hit for 180 if you don't have any damage counters on Mewtwo, which is really good in the Ditto or the mirror matchup, right? The Ditto. So it's if you're playing another Mewtwo, you can get 2 energies on Mewtwo, or get an Aurora in a electric energy, and then 1-hit KO another Mewtwo. So it's just it's a really good option for sure. Of course, Picaram, Raichu, and then Gengar, Mimikyu, just really good to utilize that Horror House GX and Poltergeist. Can be super clutch. in a lot of matchups. So, you know, why wouldn't you put it in there? Greninja GX is one of these cards that, you know, for an Aurora and a Lightning Energy, you can, I think it's like you hit for like 120, like just no matter what. Like, it's, again, going to be really good on like Decidueye Goons and a lot of different decks in general. Just hits 120, like disregarding everything. So consistently hit 120 against anything for you know, for any circumstance is going to be really cool in this deck. Also, Dark Mist GX, you shuffle one of your opponent's Pokemon into their deck, I think, or back into their hand, whatever it might be. Also really good in a lot of scenarios. So definitely really cool niche Pokemon to play in this deck. But everything else is kind of the same as Picaram in terms of like the item supporters and a lot of the Pokemon. So, you know, a deck that I personally like a lot. I think that it has a bit of a higher skill gap than Picaram, and does better in more different matchups. It's not as consistent as Picaram, the list that we saw earlier, but has a better matchup, you know, diverse matchup spread than Picaram. So very cool list. Very cool list. I forget originally like who created this list, but very, very good. We've seen like Welder Mewtwo dominate in the past. Lightning Mewtwo is a list that's actually been playing a bit. People have been playing a lot now recently, but Lightning Mewtwo, it's super cool. And most of the Lightning Toolkit cards are absolutely phenomenal, so it makes total sense. Got number 2 in the tournament. Shout out to Angel Aranabar. If you guys are interested, I actually posted the Grand Finals match, the Grand Finals set to the YouTube channel yesterday. So I'll you know, I'll put that in like the tag or whatever. I don't know. You guys can check it out. But you know, it was a pretty tough match, and he played ADP in the finals. And this ADP, you know, he had a good game. And it was SSE Bango 2, which is actually, I believe it was Brian Kim is his name. Brian Kim, of course, won the tournament from the U.S., went 10-0-2 playing ADP. Let's take a look at the championship ADP list. I'm not going to cover it too much. So here it is. And then we're done. Okay, so you can pause the video if you want to check out that list. I'm going to make a separate video on it tomorrow. So that's why I'm just not going to cover it. I'm going to leave you guys hanging. Check in tomorrow for the actual video where we go through that ADP list, maybe play some games with it, really go in depth on that list and as well as his matchup. So that's going to wrap it up for the video, guys. We still ended up going 50 minutes. I don't know how. I'm sorry this went so long, but I wanted to give everyone their time, give all these decks their time, and big shout out to everyone who made top 16 at the tournament. Again, it was a great turnout. And, you know, we do the Chill Series tournaments every Wednesday, so if you're interested in playing one of these tournaments, come check it out on Wednesday. Link in the description below for next week's tournament. But mainly, I want to let you guys know that on the 26th, so in 8 days, just about a week from tomorrow, we are running a massive $3,000 cash prize pool regional style tournament. It's going to be the GG Tour Chill TCG Cup number 2, and it's absolutely going to be massive, guys. You know, $3,000 in the prize pool. Everybody who makes top 32 is going to get at least $50 in cash prizing. So absolutely incredible, guys. It's just going to be a fantastic tournament. I'm super excited for it. Anybody who's free on the weekend of the 26th, you know, definitely come out and play. It's a 2-day event for everyone who qualifies for day 2. Going to go throughout that entire weekend. It's going to be just absolutely massive. You know, I wanted to let you guys know about it because it is a really big deal, so I would like to get as many people playing as possible. You could potentially win like $1,000 or something wild like that, or 500. The prize pool, the top prize might be, but absolutely crazy. And entry fee for the tournament is in fact $10. But listen, it's not $10 for people that use the promo code, my promo code, and that is actually Chill5. I'll put it right here on the screen. I believe it's Chill and then all uppercase is 5. This means that if you use this code at checkout on the GG Tour website, registration is not $10, but it's only $5. So 50% off if you use my code, guys, as well as, you know, getting a chance at a massive prize pool. You know, you pay $5, play some Pokemon, and you might win $500, you know, or $50 or more, right? So definitely go check out that tournament. If you're free on that weekend, I highly suggest that you go play, but that's going to be it for the video, guys. Thank you, everyone, for playing. Thank you for everyone for watching the video. Like the video. You know, if you have the time, if you made it this far, definitely like the video, and helps with the algorithm. And then click subscribe if you're interested in, you know, more of the content that I post here about every other day on the channel. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to tune out, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the video on the ADP list.